Hey, it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Tuesday, October 5th. So the moon is still in Virgo very early on in the day, but will be transiting into Libran energy. The moon goes void, of course, around 5:47 a.m. and will lock into Libran energy around 9:42 a.m. This will likely put a little bit of confusion, a lot of pressure in our heads early morning. We really are going to feel the anxiety build because it is the day before the new moon in Libra. Again, an excellent time to remind you to go ahead and download your moon guide. We have to remind ourselves that as we approach the new moon, things get dark. There's no light in the sky. We are being forced to sit in our not so nice thoughts and emotions in order to figure out what it is we don't want so that we can figure out what it is that we do want, and we can manifest that under the new moon energy. Considering the fact that the new moon in Libra is all about restoring balance, all about taking action on making stability happen, on making love happen, on doing what is right, doing what is fair, really seeing where it is that we have to do more of what we love in the run of our day. All of those illuminations, all of that effort, all of that energy, yes, we do want to manifest, but it gets illuminated in our lives where we lack all of that, which means that we're going to be thinking and feeling in extremes. We're going to feel unstable. We're going to feel the lack of love, the lack of peace, the lack of harmony, the lack of fairness. In order for us to reach a breaking point, to muster up the courage to do whatever is needed in order to balance those scales. So we have to expect that today is going to be a little bit wonky, a little bit confusing, overly pressurized, and maybe a lot of anxiety. If you haven't listened to this week's ascension symptoms forecast, I should say, please go ahead and do that. That's going to tune you into all of the energy shifts and what it is that we can expect in our physical bodies as the repercussions of the energy coming in from the cosmos. So the moon goes ahead first thing, and again, still in Virgo energy at this particular point, goes ahead and sextiles Venus. Now, the moon in Virgo over the last couple of days has really put the blinders on us to focus in on the details of our emotions, of our thoughts, of our daily lives, what it is we want, need, and desire, what it is needs to be reorganized, restructured in our days. And the moon bumping into Venus, who is in Scorpio, very intense, very vulnerable, very insecure, very much sitting in the shadow parts of ourselves, especially where relationships are concerned, in order to realize where it is we truly crave intimacy, unity with another person. Now, the moon in Virgo sextiling Venus in Scorpio is a good energy. It's a blending of energies for us to really take a good look at the inner workings of our heart, of our head, of our communication styles, whether or not we're actually in a position to ask for some of the things that we've realized that we're currently lacking in our personal relationships. And overall, this is just going to help us re-strategize what needs to change, what needs to shift, especially in our mental plane and our heart space, before we can actually go ahead and take action in our personal relationships to get the kind of results that we are now illuminated to, that we want, need, and desire. The moon is going to go ahead and bump into Jupiter, the planet of growth and expansion. Now, Jupiter, he does want to push us outside of our boundaries, outside of our comfort zone, to realize that there is beautiful new opportunities of abundance awaiting us, but we have to get out of our own way in order to actually align with that. The moon in Virgo, harmonizing with Jupiter, who is retrograde in Aquarius right now, is really trying to push the boundaries of what it is that we think is actually possible, what kind of opportunities we actually think could be possible for us at this particular point in time. We recognize that we're on the brink of a huge major shift and transformation happening in our lives, but many of us have had blinders on, thinking that this outcome is the only outcome that I want. This is the way that it has to happen. And right now, we're kind of being forced to realize that we are blocking a lot of blessings. We are missing out on a lot of opportunities by having these specific blinders on, focused on just one outcome, one path, one journey, one particular experience. And right now, we're being encouraged to just open our minds a bit, seeing what else could be possible, maybe just dabbling in expanding and growing on that vision, that dream that we're currently having, and where it is that we just have to understand that the plan, the divine plan, is much bigger than what it is that we are at this particular point even considering as a possibility. The moon goes ahead and bumps into Uranus, and Uranus is the great awakener. He likes to shake things up, especially in our mental plane. He wants to show us where new ideas, new visions, new inspirations are possible. Now, Uranus is retrograde in Tauran energy, really shaking up our foundations in our physical lives, where our relationship is concerned, where our money matters are concerned, where our jobs, our resources are concerned. And all of this is because we are, again, too particular on how we think things need to happen. We need a little bit of a shake-up here in order to recognize that we don't have control over all of these elements. Mostly, we're not feeling in control over any of these elements. But there's new information coming in, really kind of adding a little bit of fuel to the fire to see where it is that maybe we've been too closed-minded. Maybe we've been too focused on the details of the physical realm and not open enough to the possibilities of the metaphysical realm. Mercury, who is retrograde in Libra, is going to go ahead and bump into Neptune, who is retrograde in Pisces. Now, Mercury, of course, asleep at the wheel, really reflecting back on some, topics and themes of the past, especially where relationships are concerned, where things haven't been fair, things have been out of whack, where we haven't felt loved, where we haven't felt stability or security of any kind in our relationships, in our money matters. This is a little bit of a tougher energy to deal with because Neptune, who is retrograde in Pisces, who kind of represents our spiritual selves, our karma, our life lessons, our dreams, is kind of at the point right now where we're just not really down with reality. We just would rather escape reality. We actually don't even want to reflect back on our past situations, our past lifestyles. We just don't want any part of it. We just want to live in la la land right now. And the truth of the matter is that we are being illuminated to a lot of the not so nice things in our lives right now, especially our thoughts and feelings and situations that we feel out of control with. Again, we're in the window prior to the new moon and things are dark. We're being illuminated to what isn't working. What isn't working in our relationships? What isn't working in our jobs? What isn't working in our finances? What isn't working as far as love and peace and harmony goes? And it's going to make us want to run and hide because we know at this point that we're the only ones that can do anything about it, but we really just don't want to do anything about it. We would rather just go to bed and wake up to a brand new day. But of course, the day is just beginning. And now that the moon is in Libran energy, it's going to go ahead and trine the true node. Now, the true node wants to remind us of where it is that we want to be, where it is that our soul needs to be, where it is that we're being called to make a shift, make a change in our life. And the moon in Libra, of course, wants to keep things light and fluffy, wants to think about the pros and cons of how it is that we're going to get there, really wants to show us what is possible, wants to show us where, love, peace, and harmony is possible, but it's going to require us to make some major changes, first within ourselves, heart and our head, and then in our physical realms, taking action and making things happen. The moon goes ahead and trines Saturn, the Lord of Karma. Now, Saturn, let me just tell you, is preparing to go direct on the 10th. And this means that the last little push, the last little squeeze, while he is still retrograde, it's going to feel intense. And the Lord of Karma wants to remind us, first of all, of our past. He wants us to reflect back on all the tough love life lessons that we've already been through, what it is we've learned. He wants us to examine the structures of our life, the foundations of our life, how we've been doing things a certain way for so long and expecting things to change. And recognizing now, especially where the moon is in Libra, making this positive aspect with Saturn, where it is that, you know what, things have gotten a little bit unstable. They've gotten unstable because we're too connected. We're too much in a rut. We're too attached to the old. And when we recognize that we have to kind of free things up a bit to see what is possible, that's where we regain our balance. We have to take a look at what it is we don't want and what it is we do want, and recognize that we have to be somewhere in the middle right now. And if you're on either of those polarities, we have a little bit of work to do in order to actually gain some traction, to find stability, to find a grounding point before we go ahead and make all these changes when all of these major heavy hitting planets actually go direct. So the moon goes ahead and bumps into Jupiter, and this isn't a pleasant aspect, especially not compared to the earlier interaction when the moon was in Virgo, making that harmonious aspect with Jupiter. Now with the moon in Libra, making this, little bit of tension point with Jupiter. This is kind of, what are we going to do about it? What are we willing to do about it? Where do we need to grow? Where can we open our minds? Where can we open our hearts? Where can we open our physical worlds to different change and transformation? Jupiter wants to instill in us confidence and optimism and renew our faith and renew our trust in ourselves and in the plan. But the moon in Libra right now, because we're in the dark phase of the moon, is kind of caught up in the shadow parts of the moon's energy in Libra, which is indecisiveness, uncertainty, feeling like we're not enough, like we don't deserve the great grand outcome that, we are being called to do, that we're not going to have what it takes to make these dramatic changes and transformations in our life. And we get a little bit scared that we're not going to be able to grow, that we're not going to be able to see ourselves in the path that we have been dreaming of. And that is a little bit defeating. Lucky for us, though, the moon is going to bump into Uranus, which is a positive aspect. Now, as we kind of mentioned earlier, Uranus is the great awakener, really trying to shift our perspective. Uranian energy comes in from the cosmos. It is our higher intellect. And the moon in Libra just wants to make sense of it all. Of course, sorting through the details, listing the pros and cons, seeing both sides of the coin, trying to reestablish balance in a very unstable perspective. And again, this Uranian energy is shaking a lot of things up in our relationships, in our money matters, in our resources, in our plans for moving forward into the future. And this particular aspect is just kind of reminding us at this point that, we have to be patient. We have to be okay with just giving ourselves a little bit of permission to put our brain on pause, especially, in this new moon energy. This is not a time of action. This is a time of reflection, rejuvenation. This is a time to, recoup our energy, to rest. This is a time to rework a couple of things, to really just kind of recognize where we're renovating our energy, mind, body, and soul. So this particular energy, especially to end the day off, is going to just kind of reconcile within us that, okay, we can't do anything about it right now. We have a feeling that there's new information going to come in that's going to change the game. We are trying to stay on the bright side of our thoughts and our feelings. So let's just go to bed and see what happens. And of course, what's going to happen is we are going to wake up with the new moon energy, and I'm excited to talk about it. So again, if you haven't listened to October's energy forecast, I would definitely recommend you go do that. And again, huge reminder, please download your moon guide and make the best out of this energy, setting us up for some very intense actions, some very intense transformations.